So this is the review for your TSI. Some of you will test on Tuesday and A-Day will test on Wednesday. So this is the first test. Hopefully you've already worked it out. When we look at that first question, we're just given that Jessica has $8 and more than Carlos. So we should know the word more means plus and Carlos is X. So all we have is just X plus 8. Looking at question number 2, they give us the formula there. We're asking to look for the value of H. Please keep in mind that this point is your vertex, and a vertex is point HK. So my vertex right now is -2, -4, but who is my H? -2. And number 3, one number is 7 less than the other. So we need to understand we have X and Y. This one could be the first number. The other one could be whatever, the other number. So when it says one number is less than the other, so let's just say, and then the larger number is twice the smaller. So let's just go ahead and say this one's the small one and this one's the larger. So when it says the larger, meaning Y, is less, it's twice the smaller, so we'll put 2x. And when we said one number is 7 less than the other, well, of course, which number is the smaller? The X. So if it's smaller, I have to take it away from the big number. Now, this one we solve by substitution. So this we're going to substitute in for this X. So I have Y equals 2 times Y minus 7. Y equals 2Y minus 14, because we distribute these two things. We subtract -2Y, -2Y. So we end up with a -Y equals -14. So Y is 14. But the question is asking for the smaller number. So for sure, it's not going to be a positive 14. Now, if this is 14, and I'm trying to solve for X, I divide by 2, divide by 2. So X is 7. So that should be my answer. 7 is a smaller number. And of course, 14 is the larger. When we look at number 4, we're looking for zeros. Please remember zeros deals with the factors, which become your solutions. So here I have x squared equals 81. There's 2 ways to do this. One could be we subtract 81, So x squared minus 81 is equal to 0. We factor this, which becomes x something and x something. We could do the t-table, which means the factors of -81 that equal to 0, which of course would be a +9 or a -9. Or if you actually remembered that you could take the square root of 81, we have a minus. It's a difference of perfect squares. So it's a plus and minus. Square root of 81 is 9. Now, please remember that these are the factors. When it's asking for zeros, we're looking for solutions. So that's when you set them equal to 0, equal to 0. So this becomes -9. This becomes a +9. So this is your answer. Now, the other way that you could do that problem is, well, how do you get rid of the square? Take the square root, take the square root. X equals a positive or a negative, because remember, it could be both, either or, a +9. So those are 2 ways to solve that problem. It just depends what you feel more comfortable with. So let's go ahead and skip to number 6 for right now. When we look at number 6, the question is asking which equation represents the graph. So the best thing that we could look for is the y-intercept. Here, the y-intercept is at a -3. A +3. So this is my y-intercept. So keep in mind it's y equals mx plus b. So I need to have a plus 3. Plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, plus 3. So that does not help us eliminate anything. So then I need to find my slope. Well, actually, just look at the line. The line is going down. So we have a negative slope. So this cannot be my answer. That cannot be my answer. If I think A is my answer, I am going down 2 and 1 to the right. Going down 2 and 1 to the right. And that's not the case. So then let's look at B. Go down 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that point on the line? Yes. So my answer would be B. Looking at number 7, which of the following is true? So please remember the numbers that are here, we get to substitute for the letter in the parentheses. So for the first one, have 2 times 0. 0 minus 1, so that's 0 over a negative 1, which in this case would be 0. That's not true. When I plug in a 1, 2 times 1 over 1 minus 1, we end up with 2 over 0, and that's undefined, so that can't be my answer. Then when I plug in a 2 in there, 2 minus 1, 4 over 1. And then I'll plug in a 4, 2 times 4 over 4 minus 1, that's 8 over 3. Now, when we look at 8 over 3, it goes in twice, and then 2 and 2/3. So we need to understand what it is. So since we're using the same thing for these, the question is, and this means less than, which one's smaller, the 4 or the 2 and 2/3? Because it is the 2 and 2/3, the number I plugged in here was 4, so it has to be D, the correct answer, where h of 4 is less than h of 2. The next problem, they're asking for the value of y. So when we look at this, let's go ahead and rewrite this combining those two. So I have 6 plus 4y equals 3y plus 4. So moving our variables to one side, I have 6 plus y equals to 4. We subtract 6, y equals negative 2. So my answer would be B. Now remember, you should have worked on this already, and hopefully you are just checking your work.
My math teacher called me average. How mean?
Looking at number 9, it's asking us to look at the circle graph, and we need to understand that that 400,000 is all together, but they want to know what is the difference, according to the question, between the industry and agriculture. So when we subtract these two, the difference is an 8%. So we want to know what is 8% of the 400,000. Now, please remember, when you have a percent, you move the decimal twice to the front, so this becomes 0.08. 0.08. So we go ahead and multiply that. Of course, 0, 0, 0, 0. Another 0, and then that becomes a 32. Because there is 2 decimals here, we move this twice, and this is my answer. So my answer would have been B. Now, please understand that when you guys are doing this problem, you're going to have that calculator, or you could just calculate that in the calculator. Which of the following is the graphs? It is very much like the formula from the previous problem in problem number 2. But because it has a square root, it changes a bit. So it should be y equals a square root x minus h plus k. So remember that the h and the k come from wherever this graph starts. In this case, it is at -6, 0. So that being said, this should not even exist because it's a 0. So this question is out. Now, the original square root would be a graph that goes this way. Now, this graph is going up, so it's positive. This graph is going down, so it should be negative, which cannot be this one. So the only difference here from between B and D is this is supposed to go all the way or not. When we look at this, H must be inside of the square root because it's a negative. Remember, it's always the opposite from the inside of the parentheses or the inside of the square root. If it's a negative, it should become a +6. My correct answer should be the last one there. Now, when we look at this question, we're trying to solve for x. Please understand that all these numbers are divisible by 2. So when we divide 2x squared by 2, we have x squared. When we divide 12x by 2, we have 6x. When we divide 18 by 2, we have a 9. Then we look at this in here. We're looking for the factors of 9 that add up to 6. So 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. And of course, the ones that are going to add up to 6 is 3 and 3. So this becomes x plus 3 and x plus 3. But please understand, we're looking for the values, so they want us to set them equal to 0. So we set this equal to 0, set that equal to 0, x equals -3, and x equals -3. Since it's the same answer, we only have to write it down once, and there it is. Now, looking at the next question, which of the following will have no real solution? When we talk about no real solution, please understand that we are looking for an I. Now remember, the only way you get an I is by having a negative number inside of a square root. So when we're solving this, when it divides 100, because it's a positive divided by a positive, the answer will be positive. A -16 divided by a -2, it's still positive. A +8 divided by a -2, that would be a negative. And the -96 divided by -3, that would be a positive. So the only one that would give me a negative number would be C. Looking at the next problem, since the formula is V equals pi, now they tell us the radius is 2x, and they're telling us that the radius is squared times the h, which is 1 minus 4x. So when we do this, 2x squared actually becomes 4x squared, because 2 times 2 and x squared is just that. But we still have to multiply it times the height. So we have 4x squared times 1, which is 4x squared. 4x squared times a -4x, which is a -16x cubed. Now, all this, we still are supposed to multiply it by pi. So that's how I end up with 4 pi x squared minus 16 pi x cubed. So the only answer that matches that would be D. Next problem here, Itzel earns $55 for working 4 hours. So we need to know how much is she making per hour. So we have to divide 55 divided by 4, and that should give us 13.75 per hour. Once we look at that, it says she's going to work 35. So what is 35 times 13.75? The answer should be 481.25. Now, not just are you supposed to have these problems solved, but you could pause this video whenever you want.
What do you call a number that wanders about? A Roman numeral.
So looking at problem 15, we're looking for the area. Please remember the area of a triangle is length times width. So as we look at this, we have x plus 4 times 2 minus 3x. We do FOIL, x times 2, 2x, x times a -3x, -3x squared. 4 times 2 is 8. and 4 times a negative 3x, that's a negative 12x. So when we're looking at this, please understand we always do the one with the x squared first. So by this time, you should already know those two cannot be your answers. Then we combine 10 and negative 12, which gives me a 2 and a negative 12, which gives me a negative 10. And then the plus 8, we have nobody to combine it with, so it stays as a plus 8, making A the correct answer. Number 16, area of a square. Area of a square is s squared. In this case, area would be 22a squared, which means 22 times 22, which is 484a squared. So when they tell you that the area is 121, then we should put 121 equals 484a squared. So of course, if we're trying to solve for a, we must divide by 484. So a squared equals 1/4. But since we're trying to take the square root of a now to solve for that, this becomes the square root of 1 over the square root of 4, which is 1 over 2. So that would be the correct answer for A. Number 17 is something that we just finished covering, where we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. So hopefully by now, this quadratic formula is in your little heads a little bit more. So we need to understand that A is 1, B is 2, and C is -6. So when we substitute these values, we have -2 plus minus 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times the -6 all over 2 times 1. So this here becomes a -2 plus minus. That becomes a 4 plus a 24, which is 28 over 2. Now please keep in mind that we need the square root of 28. So 28 becomes 4 and 7, and 4 becomes 2 and 2. So this becomes 2 square root of 7. So -2 plus minus 2 square root of 7. But of course, and that should be the square root of 7, sorry, over 2 and over 2, because we're dividing both by 2. So -2 divided by 2 is -1, plus minus, these two cross, and it becomes just the square root of 7, making D the correct answer. Number 18, let me rewrite it. Now please keep in mind, anytime that you're dividing by a negative number, which that's going to be the case here, I need to flip my sign. So it's going to go from greater than to less than. So that tells me this is not my answer and that's not my answer. I divide by -7, I divide by -7. B is less than a -4, which in this case my answer is D.
Why did so many bakers show up to math class? Because they heard they could learn about pi.
So looking at number 19, how many times does this parabola cross the line of x is equal to 4? So x is equal to 4 right here. How many times does it cross the line? Only 1. Simple. Which equation, what values make this equation true? So when they give you answers like that, the easy thing is just to plug in. So let's plug in the -1 in there. So I have -1 plus 3 squared minus 4. That should be equal to 0. That's 2 squared. And that would be 2 times 2, which is 4. Is 4 minus 4 is equal to 0? Yeah, so the -1 works. Let's try the 5. 5 plus 3 squared minus 4 is equal to 0. That's 8. 8 squared minus 4, that gives me 64 minus 4, which is equal to 0. That's not true. So anywhere where you see a 5, it's not going to work. So it can't be A or B. So let's try another one. Well, we know -1 works. They both have a -5. So obviously it has to be this one. But let's just go ahead and plug it in. -5 plus 3 squared minus 4. That becomes -2 squared minus 4, and that is 4 minus 4, which is 0. And of course, that is what we're trying to get to. So yes, the correct answer is C. In problem 21, we're looking for an average. Please keep in mind, average is when you add all the problems or everything that's given to you and divide by the number. In this case, they're just saying Samantha has 4 tests, but she only knows the score to 3 of them, which is an 86, a 98, a 91, and we don't know the 4th score, so we're just going to let that be X. Now to find the average, of course, I have to divide by 4, and they want for her average to be a 90, so that should equal to a 90. So the first thing we have to do here is add the 86, the 98, and the 91, which in this case is 275 plus X divided by 4 equals to 90. If I'm trying to solve for X, the first thing I want to do is multiply times 4. So I end up with 275 plus X equals to 360. I must subtract 275. I must subtract 275. So X equals 85. So this would have to be the grade of the 4th test in order for you to be able to get a 90 as an average. Last one we're looking for, or the last one on this page, we're looking for the area of a square. You have a square. If this is A plus 5B, then all the sides have to be A plus 5B all around. The area, once again, you could see it as A times W or S squared, whichever way you want. So I have A plus 5B times A plus 5B. We do A times A, which is A squared. A times 5B, 5AB, 5B times A, 5AB. 5b times 5b is 25b squared. These two here, a squared plus, they both have the same thing, so it's 5 plus 5, which is 10ab plus 25b squared. So my answer is C. For problem 23, we have to factor. We've covered factoring a lot, but we're looking for the one that's not a factor. Well, first of all, what do they all have in common? An x. So we factor out an x, parentheses, x squared minus 8x plus 15. Now I'm looking for the factors of 15 to add up to a -8. So it's either 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. Because this guy's negative, they both have to be negatives. So in this case, I have x, x minus 3, and x minus 5. So we look here, this is a factor, this is a factor, this is a factor. This is the only one that's not a factor. Number 24, we're not going to do. It's a little bit weird. We're going on to 25. So we're trying to solve. So we move everything to one side. Minus a. So -1, -1a becomes -2a plus 6 equals a -2. Subtract 6, subtract 6. -2a equals -8. Divide by -2, divide by -2. So a is 4. So at first glance, I'm like, hello. A equals to 4 is not there, but the question is asking 1/2 a. So what is 1/2 times the a I just got? So half of 4 is 2. The answer is B. Now midterm formula, we covered it before. It's when you add your x's and then divide by 2, and then you add your y's and you divide by 2. So we look at this, 1 plus -9 divided by 2 and negative 1 plus 7 divided by 2. So this here is a negative 8 divided by 2 and a 6 divided by 2. Negative 4 and a positive 3. The question is just asking for the y value, which in this case would be the plus 3. So looking at number 27. Looking at this equation, once again, your parent function we covered was this one, looking up. Because it's facing down, we should know it's a negative, so this one's out of the question. Your vertex is where? At 0, 1. Remember, this is still h and this is still k. So it goes back to a formula very much like what we've seen before. So h, there's nothing there because it's 0, but what should be outside? The plus 1. So the absolute value of x and then the plus 1 outside, but because it's upside down, we should have a negative. So my answer is B. There's a proportional relationship between pairs and their cost. If Eladio bought X pairs for $13, Florence can, how many pairs can Florence buy if she has 26? Well, 16 times 2 is 26, so I should be able to buy twice as many, which is 2x. Number 29, when they use the word not defined, that means that my denominator should be equal to 0. So 7a minus 21 is equal to 0. Add 21, add 21. 7a equals 21 divided by 7, divided by 7. A is 3. So look at those questions, check your answers. Moving on to number 30. Paris Sandals is on sale. They have a 25% reduction from the regular price. If the regular price is M, what is the sale price that you're going to pay? So once again, any percent, change it to a decimal. Any percent, change it to a decimal. So who do I need to multiply the 0.25 times to get the amount of money I'm saving? So this is for the amount of money, but the question is asking, what is the sale price? If I take away a 25%, I am left with 75%. So that's how much you're going to pay for. So my answer should be C. Question 31. We're dividing. So when we divide, is whatever is common on top and the bottom we could get rid of. So please understand that x squared is x times x. So we could eliminate an x there. We could also eliminate that x. So it's like having x squared over x plus x over x. But once again, x squared is x times x. So we cross out one here and one there. This remains as x plus this should stay as 1. So my answer is C. Number 32, a certain computer microchip cannot be subjected to temperatures below 25 degrees. So this is Celsius, so I have to plug it in for C. 25 equals 5 over 9, F minus 32. So if I'm trying to convert this to Fahrenheit, first I have to get rid of that. So multiply everything times 9 over 5. That eliminates this. 9 times 5 divided by, 25 times 9 divided by 5 just gives me 45. Because of this, these guys eliminated, so I just have F minus 32. I add 32, I add 32, and I get that F is 77 degrees. And there's your answer. The following inequalities are equivalent except, so I have x is less than 5, and this one have to add 1, so x is less than 5, they're the same, yay, and 2x plus 1 less than 11, we subtract 1, 2x is less than 10, divide by 2, x is less than 5. And this also is the same. So when we do this one, we divide by negative. But what happens when we divide by negative? You must switch your sign. And this is what you get, which is not the same as the other two. So this here is your answer. They want to know what is the middle term here. So basically we just do FOIL. That's it. So x times x, x squared, x times 3y, 3xy, negative y times x, negative xy, negative y times 3y, negative 3y squared. X squared, these two combine, plus 2x minus 3y squared. We look at this, I'm sorry, but this is 2y. Don't forget to put down both of your variables. So my answer is A. The probability of selecting A9.
I was going to tell you a joke about infinity, but it didn't have an end.
Problem 35, we're looking for the probability of 3. So I have 2 3s out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 numbers. So this reduces to 1/5. So that would be my answer. Next problem, I have 3 over 2 minus 3 2b equals to 3 over 1. So keep in mind that what we want here is to have the same denominator. So I have to multiply this by b, and this one by 2b. Now that all my denominators are the same, you forget about them. I have 3b minus 3 equals to 6b. I divide by, subtract 3b. Subtract 3b. Negative 3 equals to 3b. Divide by 3, b is a negative 1. This problem, we distribute this to both parts. Becomes x to the 6 over 4 to the third. 4 to the third is the same thing as 64. So the right answer for this problem would be D. Moving on to number 28. This problem here goes through axis negative 4, sorry. When we look at it, it is a solid line. So I need this. We're shading everything to the left. So I need less than or equal to a negative 4. So we look at the answer choices, and less than or equal, nope. Less than or equal, no. Less than or equal, yes. And that would be our only answer. We still verify with the other thing. This is 2, and it's everything greater than. So when we look at the answer, y is greater than 2 is correct. Number 39, we have large boxes of cookie dough and small boxes. So once again, we have our two variables. X is large, y is small. Large boxes are $6 and the small boxes are 4. Together we make $86. We have 18 boxes, that means x plus y equals to 18. We have to solve for y in this one, so we subtract x. So y equals negative x plus 18. This here I have to substitute for that. So I have 6x plus 4 parentheses negative x plus 18 equals 86. That is a 6x minus 4x. 4 times 18 would be plus 72 equals to 86. Combine that, 2x equals 72 plus 72. We subtract 72. We get 2x equals 14. We divide by 14 and we get x is 7. The last question, for some reason it's not showing also, but when we look at the point of intersection here, it should be -3, -2. So what does that mean? That if I were to substitute that for x and y, and to see which one is true. So for example, 2 times -3 minus 3 times a -2, that should equal -12. So that's a 6, -6 minus plus 6, sorry, is a -12. That is not true because this would be 0 equals -12. So this part of the answer is wrong. So that one's wrong, that one's wrong. So let's try the next one. 2 -3 plus 3 times a -2 equals -12. -6 plus a -6 equals -12. That is true. But which one would it be? So we have to try now with that 5x minus 3y. So I have 5, substitute it with the x, which is -3, minus -3 times -2, and that should be equal to a -9. -15 plus 6 equals -9, and that is true, so that would be my answer.